the great power order, Trump's new geopolitical reality. Today, the geography of the New World Order that Trump and his supporters are determined to build is becoming increasingly clear. This time, Trump 2.0 is firmly determined to cut himself off from both left liberal globalism and neoconservatives, who in essence are just another form of globalists, and refuses to compromise with their plans. He's breaking ties with the past and setting the American aircraft carrier on a new course. Trump's model of international relations can be described as the great power order. This is a logical extension of the entire MAGA ideology, Make America Great Again. The name itself emphasizes that it is not about the West, nor about the spread of liberal democracy worldwide, nor about Atlanticism, but specifically about the United States as a nation state. According to Trump's vision, this state must be completely liberated from globalization, along with the constraints, obligations, and imperatives associated with it. In Trump's eyes, almost all existing international institutions reflect the old order, while he seeks to create a new one. This applies to everything: the United Nations, NATO, World Trade Organization, World Health Organization, and all other supranational national organizations. He sees them as all as creations of liberals and globalists, while he himself stands firmly and consistently on the principles of realism. Realists and liberals are the two main schools of thought in international relations, opposing each other in all aspects, especially in the fundamental understanding of sovereignty. Realists consider sovereignty absolute, while liberals see it as relative, seeking to subordinate nation administrations to a higher international authority. In their view, this should ultimately lead to the unification of humanity and the creation of a world government. Realists categorically reject this, considering it an attack on the freedom and independence of states and nations, and that is why Trump supporters call globalists the deep state, the entity that seeks to subordinate U.S. policy to a supranational agenda. A prototype of globalization policy can be found in Woodrow Wilson's 14 Points, which after World War I outlined the role of the United States as a global power, responsible for promoting liberal democracy on a planetary scale. Trump, on the other hand, in the spirit of realist school, leans towards the earlier Monroe Doctrine, America for the Americans, which implies avoiding active involvement in European politics and refusing to intervene in the internal affairs of states beyond the American continent, and even then only when events in the Americas directly affect U.S. national interests. However, it should be noted that Trumpism differs in some respects from classical realism. For Trump, it is not only the legal status of sovereignty that matters, but something more crucial: the ability of the state to gain, consolidate, strengthen, and defend its independence against the most serious potential adversary. Thus, it is not about sovereignty in general, but about real sovereignty supported by a corresponding amount of resources: economic, military, demographic, territorial, natural, intellectual, technological, cultural, and so on. The prominent American scholar of international relations, Stephen Krasner, also a proponent of realism, called purely legal nominal sovereignty a fantasy and even hypocrisy. John Mearsheimer, a classical realist, holds the same view. Donald Trump shares this perspective, and in their opinions, true, real sovereignty can only belong to a great power. Realism is thus elevated to a level that includes not just ordinary states, but fully developed, self-sufficient civilized states. This is the world order that Trump envisions as a roadmap for his geopolitical revolution. On the other hand, it is a complete rejection of globalization, and on the other, it is a move towards the regional integration of great spaces, quote unquote, which is essential for the self-sufficiency and autonomy of a great power. From this follows a logical course towards the annexation of Canada and Greenland, as well as the prioritization of relations with Latin America in a paradigm that would benefit the United States most. It is interesting to note the ambiguity of MAGA. It's not entirely clear what is meant by America, only the USA, or all of North America, including Canada and Greenland, or perhaps all of the Americas, including South America. This ambiguity is not accidental. It opens the horizon of a great space without setting clear boundaries in advance. Moreover, Trump's call to make America great again can be interpreted as a call for its territorial expansion. In a similar way, the term Russian world, quote unquote, is used, which extends beyond the borders of the Russian Federation with indefinite boundaries. Russian world is synonymous with the Russian cultural state that is Greater Russia. Trump, in turn, thinks in terms of his own cultural state, Greater America. At the same time, he's no hurry, nor does he intend to abandon hegemony, at least in the regional level, but the object of this hegemony is changing. It's no longer a liberal world order based on ever-changing rules and the seizure of power or international cosmopolitan elites in the spirit of George Soros's global open society program, as envisioned by the deep state, which Trump dismantled, and instead it's the leadership of the United States as a great power among other great powers that possess real and not nominal sovereignty and are capable of competing with the United States in one way or another. How many great powers does Trump's new order envisage? Professor Mearsheimer identifies only three: the United States, China, and slightly behind the first two, Russia. He remains skeptical about India, believing that it has not yet accumulated the necessary potential to seriously compete with the others. However, there are other views. Some argue that India, too, can be characterized as a cultural state. However, when it comes to the US, China, and Russia, almost all realists agree these powerful nations, though powerful in different ways, have the bare minimum to claim great power status. So instead of the bipolar world of the Cold War, instead of the unipolar neoconservative world, or the nonpolar world of the liberal globalists, Trumpism envisions a tripolar or quadripolar world with a balance of power defining the architecture of the future world order. And this will require the reestablishment of almost all international institutions so that they reflect real realities rather than being ghosts of past eras, no longer anchored in that particular reality. Such a plan might seem quite similar to multipolarity. Indeed, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently acknowledged that we live in a multipolar world. China, Russia, and India would easily agree with this truth, as they already possess all the characteristics of the poles. However, Trump is taking a highly critical stance towards the multipolar BRICS bloc, which includes almost all the major civilizations and serves as the institutional and symbolic embodiment of multipolarity. For Trump, China appears as the most serious competitor and even adversary. He probably sees the BRICS as a structure in which China plays a central role as the most powerful state economically, technologically, and so on. Moreover, contrary to Trump's notion of a great power class, the BRICS include not only fully established great powers, but also emerging cultural blocs such as the Islamic world, Africa, and Latin America. And this turns the BRICS into an exarchy, and with it Western civilization into a heptarchy. And Trump, in the spirit of cold realism and American pragmatism, is skeptical of anything virtual or potential, that is, something that is merely possible but has not yet been realized. His attitude is essentially, first become a great power, then we'll talk. Any alliance beyond U.S. influence, especially one that opposes it, will be seen as a threat. Where does the European Union fit into this picture? Brussels, the European Parliament is there, after the change of American administration, is in a difficult position. After World War II, Europe became a kind of province or even a military political colony of America. But with Trump's turn away from globalism, the EU must either dissolve or undergo a radical transformation. Some European nations, Hungary, Slovakia, Serbia, which is not a member of the EU, Croatia, and so to some extent Italy and Poland, are tending to follow Trump and adopt the MAGA slogan, "Make Europe Great Again." Others are in disarray, struggling to maintain their previous globalization course without U.S. support. Europe's future now depends on whatever it adopts. It must uphold true sovereignty and traditional values, or it will perish. The ice of the old world is breaking, and the thaw has begun, Alexander Dugan reports. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.